nation's capital. I'm Tamara Stuchlak, and in this segment we speak with Sharon Savoy. She is an icon in the world of theater arts and the exhibition field of dance. She won her first world exhibition title at the Madison Square Gardens, and 20 years later ended her competitive career by winning with all first place votes at the 2004 World Exhibition Dance Championships. She has performed in Hollywood movies, on the Miss America Pageant, at the Kennedy Center, and at the Sydney Olympics. Her book, titled Ballroom, Obsession and Passion in the World of Competitive Dance, will be available at bookstores this fall. Sharon, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Orient us to the world of dance, ballroom, Latin exhibition.
Certainly. In the ballroom world, there's three categories mainly, and one is ballroom, which all of us can imagine. It's kind of like Prince Charming and Cinderella, and it's absolutely stunning. And then, of course, there's the ultimate sexy Latin dancers, and they look like thoroughbreds. Just, you know, kind of can't wait to get out there on the dance floor and shake their booty, and it's quite a scene. And then my field, which was my genre for over 20 years, which I absolutely loved, which is called exhibition style. A lot of people would recognize exhibition style to be similar to ice dancing and pair skating. It's a dance where you have no rules, which is kind of the most creative part of it. In other words, every other form has a certain style you have to dance, a certain character of dance, and a certain music. So you're going to dance a waltz, a tango, a foxtrot if you're in the ballroom, and you're going to dance a cha-cha, a rumba, and a samba if you're in the Latin. But in my field, you can pick your own music, pick your own costume, you can have a story and a theme. So, you know, your limits are only your creative.
So you began dancing in what style, and how did you bring yourself into the exhibition world?
Wonderful question. I actually started in ballet, and I was trained by George Balanchine. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Wow.
In New York City, yes. And it was a wonderful experience. I was 16 years old when I landed in New York with my two little trunks and the wrong address in my pocket. So kind of a daunting beginning. And I went on to dance with several ballet companies. And ballet companies, they don't give you 52-week contracts. So you have quite a few breaks. I was on a break and I wanted to explore something else. I had fallen in love with what we call in the ballet world pas de deux, which is partnering or dance of two. So I needed to make a little extra money, and I went into a ballroom studio, and so I started to learn how to teach ballroom. So it's the first teaching job I had. And in the process,
so you were new to that dance form.
Absolutely
and
new.
You were becoming a
absolutely new.
Okay,
yes,
so this
yes.
gives us an insight
yes.
to your
well, it was quite a transition.
Character.
It
yes.
was quite a transition. First of all, in ballet, you're all turned out, and all of a sudden in ballroom, you're supposed to, you know, have parallel movement, at least for a foxtrot and things like that. But I loved the partnering immediately. And about, I would say 2 months into my stay there at the Fred Astaire Dance Studio in New York City, in walked my first partner, and 9 months later, we were world champions at Madison Square Gardens. Now, in my field, we were able to use my, you know, special niche, which was performing arts, which is a lot of balletic lines. So I didn't really have to be perfect in ballroom. I just had to be a very good partner and very expressive as a dancer.
But you were new to the exhibition world. How was your entry into that, and the judging and the competitiveness?
That's a loaded question. Well, I tell you what was just so exciting, to find a format where I could be expressive. In the ballet world, you are emulating the stars of the ballet world, meaning you want to be like Suzanne Farrell or Natalia Makarova. You want to do the Swan Lake just like the person who preceded you. In the ballroom world, you're your own creation. So this was very exciting to me, very freeing for me. You know,
so growing up, you know, you came from the ballet world. Did you know about these other dance forms, or
no?
Just
I came from Flint, Michigan. That's a very small Midwestern town. I had not even seen a ballet before I left Flint, Michigan. Actually, what happened, I got very fortunate. A gentleman from Paris came to teach a ballet seminar in Flint, Michigan for the summer. And he pulled my mother aside and he said, she will always remember these words, your daughter has the talent of 1 in 10,000, and she needs to go away and train. And my mom, in the best interest of all her children, understood I was taking ballet and enjoying it, but to train was an entirely different proposal. So off I went with him to North Carolina School of the Arts.
So what do you think he saw?
Oh, what an
Because you
interesting
are
question.
a champion. And he saw that then.
Well, first of all, you need a certain genetic proportions, kind of you need long legs, short torso. So that's kind of an assumption. You kind of have to have that because you have to look aesthetically pleasing and you have to create certain body lines. So your body has to be able to have good feet and everything and make pretty shapes. So that's kind of has to be a given. But beyond that, you have to have a sense of musicality and artistry. For example, even if I did this perfectly, that looks a little robotic. There's nothing actually technically wrong with this. But when I want to dance, I'm going to do that to you.
So what are you thinking when you're doing that? Because it's emotion also.
It comes, you're exactly right. Some people would say from your soul or from your emotional center. I'm saying I'm giving my heart to you rather than I'm placing my arm in first position to second position. And one comes to life. One, then add that to music and it really is amplified.
Now, was that taught to you to come from that source?
No, no, and that's the part I'm saying. That is must be what he saw because you'll see people say that's a musical dancer, and that's what they're saying. They're dancing, they're feeling that from the music. And you can be on the music, but when you're in the music, you know, it's an entirely different plateau to be on.
So would you say this is the nugget for all artists? We're talking about dance, but is this...
Yes. That X factor, that it factor, what makes a singer sing something with more passion where you feel her words, not that it's just a pretty sound. What makes you, you know, carries you, transpires you to another level of interaction with that artist.
So what were some of the influences that, you know, brought you through either your ballet days or then onto your exhibition days? What did you draw then on when you were in this new field? 9 months. 9 months.
Well, 9 months. The first time we were just exploring with each other, and I was very fortunate. I was probably the first person who was a professional ballet dancer, and coming from the balancing school, that was quite a high pedigree. So people had ballet before, but it's different to be a professional dancer. So I kind of had a leg up on the competition field when I first entered the ballroom community. Years later, it was highly competitive. There was a lot of girls with lots of ballet training. So, but to answer your question about what inspires you, I was able to be exposed by all the performing I was then seeing to lots of different art forms. For example, the ice skating, you know, the pair skating, rhythm gymnastics is another very good example. Would you say
other dancers do that, or perhaps at that time you were unique in pulling from more sources?
Well, you know, I don't really know how other people created their work. A lot of people had choreographers they would bring in. My partners, I had quite a few different partners through my career, and we always created our own work. And a lot of what defined that was the music we would choose. For example, I was asked to dance in Paris, and Celine Dion's music, My Heart Will Go On, from the movie Titanic, had just come out. And I had a mere 3 weeks to come up with the routine, and I went, gee, I just love her voice. It's breathy, it's lyrical, it's everything a dancer wants to have when you have a balletic, lyrical piece to do. But what was the biggest symbol was the movie poster with Kate Winslet standing in the prow of the ship like this and leaning out and the wind in her hair. So my partner and I decided, okay, we have to, you know, use that symbol. So I do this roll around his neck and I actually stand on his chest, and he only holds me with one arm on my ankles. Now, we'd already perfected this move over a great amount of failure and tears, but in this particular instance, we wanted to have that feeling of the ship.
You created this move. You'd never seen it before.
No, we saw it move it in a Las Vegas Adagio couple. Oh. So we knew that, but they didn't run with it. We wanted to run with it. And what was the only possible way to make him run underneath me was I'm already slightly off balance on his chest to be able to balance. I then had to push my chest almost off him to cause him to run under me. And so, yeah, I was kind of like, oh. And, but I will never forget the night we danced that in Paris. It was at the Palais de Bercy, which is this stunning indoor stadium.
Beautifully anointed gold.
Yes, and the film crew had been there the night before watching us rehearse. We had never gotten through the number. Just the night before, I got my costume and finally was able to get through the number. It was a brand new number. So they saw us rehearsing, they saw my dress, and they made the most beautiful lighting pattern on the floor. It was just stunning. But when we went to do this run across the entire stadium, when I'm standing like the poster was, the audience just went, they just erupted. And it's just one of those things that you kind of keep in your heart forever.
It's
I know
a high that
yes.
you're not going to forget.
No, no. And those are branded on your heart for a long time as an artist, sure.
What's it like to compete? So you've won several championships.
Yes, quite a few with several partners. So you think I would have gotten used to it. But actually, my book is a lot about this. It was a lifelong task of having to deal with nerves. Your legs are like absolute jello before you go on. That never changes. I heard about like Johnny Carson. He used to, you know, almost throw up before every Tonight Show that he did. That made me feel a lot better.
So what did you end up doing on the inside to move forward past all of that?
Well, I must have done a good job, because years later people told me, oh, we thought you were such a tough competitor, and I was shocked that none of this showed. You just deal with it. And for me, what made the difference was the moment I walked on the floor, I was in character. It was like I was no longer Sharon. I was Sharon Savoy being, you know, the harem's, the Sultan's favorite harem girl, or in Titanic, you know, the girl that he was falling in love with. And so that
So do you think you made more of a distinction between performance and being the dance?
Yes, oh, absolutely. You need to just like throw yourself into the role, and once the music first starts, it helps you just be, because part of your job is to take the audience on this wonderful ride with you. What I mean by that is so many lifts I was able to do where I was just floating and flying in the air, and it felt marvelous.
No fear on your part. You're talking about the joy.
No, the joy. And they need to feel that. They need to feel like they're going with you. And I would often know I had the audience with me when I would see their eyes and their heads move with me. And if you're frightened, if you're like a bird, they pick up that tension. And then they're not enjoying you. They're not receiving you. They're going, ooh, ooh, I'm afraid for her. And
so
that's the last thing you want to
the nugget,
project.
which is being.
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 In the moment.
Yes.
In the moment.
In your book, is there information for young dancers, inspiration for them?
I think the book in its entirety is an inspiration for everyone, meaning how wonderful it would be that if we could all find a passion in life, because time flies when you're in love with what you're doing. And the sacrifices you make are ones you choose to make, and they're just done out of absolute love and desire to do the best you can in your field. And it's a wonderful gift to be given, to find that passion in life, whether it's music, art, technology, whatever it is that drives you or inspires you, finding your passion. That's what I would say.
Sharon, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We've come to a close, and thank you for joining us.